The morning sun cast long shadows across the golden wheat fields of New Haven Colony. Jake Morrison stood on his porch, watching his neighbor Tony Johnson drive his harvester through the grain. The machine moved slowly through the crops, cutting and gathering the wheat that would feed families across 3 star systems. Jake sipped his coffee and smiled. Life was good here on New Haven. The planet had 2 suns, which made the days longer and the crops grow faster. His wife Emma was inside, making breakfast for their 2 children. 8-year-old Lucy was probably still asleep, while 10-year-old Ben would be getting ready for school. Commander Morrison had a different job than most colonists. He ran the small defense station that orbited above New Haven. It was not much of a station, just 12 people and 3 patrol ships. They mostly dealt with mining disputes and helped lost ships find their way. Nobody expected real trouble out here on the edge of human space. The comm unit on his belt buzzed. Jake pressed the button and heard the voice of his deputy, Captain Ryan Blake. "Commander, we have unknown ships approaching the system. They are not responding to our signals." Jake frowned. Unknown ships were unusual but not unheard of. Sometimes, independent traders took new routes through space. "How many ships, Ryan?" "Sir, I count at least 50 vessels. They are big ones, and they are moving fast toward the planet." 50 ships was not normal. Jake felt his stomach tighten with worry. "I am coming up to the station. Keep trying to contact them." He rushed inside to tell Emma. She was cooking eggs while Ben ate cereal at the kitchen table. "I have to go to work early today," Jake said, trying to keep his voice calm. "There might be some ships that need help." Emma looked at him with concern. She had been married to a military man long enough to read his face. "Is everything okay?" "I am sure it is fine. Just routine stuff." Jake kissed her goodbye and hurried to his transport ship. 20 minutes later, Jake docked at the orbital station. The small command center was busy with activity. Ryan Blake met him at the airlock. Ryan was young but smart, and Jake trusted him completely. "The ships are definitely alien, sir," Ryan said as they walked to the main display. "I have never seen anything like them before." Jake looked at the screen. The unknown vessels were beautiful in a deadly way. They looked like they were made of crystal and metal, with smooth curves that caught the light from New Haven's twin suns. Each ship was at least 3 times bigger than anything humans had built. "Any response to our signals?" Jake asked. "Nothing, sir. They are ignoring us completely." Chief Engineer Amy Foster looked up from her console. "Commander, I am reading massive energy signatures from those ships. Whatever weapons they have, they are charging them up." Jake felt cold fear creep up his spine. "Get me a channel to the planet. Warn the colonies to prepare for evacuation." Before anyone could respond, the alien ships opened fire. Beams of blue-white energy lanced down from space toward New Haven's surface. Where they hit, the ground turned to glass. Jake watched in horror as the wheat fields that Tony Johnson had been harvesting just an hour ago became a smoking crater. "They are targeting the settlements," Amy shouted. "Morrison Town, New Beijing, Riverside. They are hitting them all." Jake grabbed the communication microphone. "All colonies, this is Commander Morrison. You are under attack. Evacuate immediately. Get to the emergency shelters and prepare for transport off-planet." But even as he spoke, Jake could see it was too late. The alien ships were systematic and thorough. They moved from target to target, destroying everything humans had built on New Haven. Farms, schools, hospitals, homes. All of it was being turned to ash and melted rock. "Sir, they are targeting civilian areas specifically," Ryan said, his voice shaking. "They are not going after military targets. They are killing families." Linda Crawford's voice crackled over the radio. She was the colony administrator, and she was trying to coordinate evacuations from the planet's surface. "Morrison, we need more time. We have thousands of people trying to get to the ships." "I know, Linda. Do the best you can." Jake turned to his small crew. "Prepare our ships for combat. We have to try to draw their fire away from the planet." Amy Foster stared at him. "Sir, we have 3 patrol boats against 50 warships. It will be suicide." "Maybe. But we took an oath to protect these people." The HMS Defender launched first, with Ryan Blake commanding. The small ship raced toward the alien fleet, firing its light weapons at the massive crystal vessels. It was like throwing rocks at a mountain, but it got their attention. Two of the alien ships turned away from the planet and fired at the Defender. Ryan was a good pilot, and he managed to dodge the first few shots. But there were too many of them. Jake watched helplessly as the Defender was hit by multiple energy beams. The small ship broke apart in a flash of light and metal. But Ryan had managed to transmit something first, a recording of the aliens and their attack. "Get that data to Earth," Jake ordered. "Make sure they know what happened here." More alien ships were arriving now. Jake counted over 100 of them. The attack was not random. It was planned and organized. Someone wanted to wipe out every human in this system. The aliens finished destroying the cities and began targeting the evacuation ships. Jake watched small civilian transports trying to escape the planet's atmosphere, only to be shot down like insects. Families that had been eating breakfast just hours ago were now dead or dying. A new voice came over the radio. It was cold and mechanical, speaking in perfect English. "Humans of this system, you have built colonies in space that belongs to the Valtharan Empire. This is not permitted. You will leave all worlds beyond your home system, or we will destroy every one of your kind. This is your only warning." The transmission ended. The alien ships, the Valtharans, continued their bombardment until nothing lived on New Haven's surface. Then they left as quickly as they had come. Jake sat in his command chair, staring at the dead world below. In 6 hours, 50,000 people had been murdered. Men, women, and children who had done nothing but try to build a better life among the stars. His hands shook as he composed a message to Earth. The recording Ryan had died to obtain would show humanity exactly what they were facing. An enemy that saw them as nothing more than pests to be exterminated. But the Valtharans had made one mistake. They had let some witnesses live. And humans, Jake knew, had a way of surprising people who underestimated them. The message to Earth was simple. They want a war. Give them one. The Valtharan fleet hung in space near Kepler Station like a collection of deadly jewels. Admiral Zethkar felt satisfied as he watched his ships prepare for another cleansing operation. The humans on New Texas colony below had 24 hours to evacuate before his forces would turn their world into glass. "Admiral, we are detecting hyperspace signatures," reported his sensor officer. "3 large vessels approaching our position." Zethkar barely glanced at the display. Probably more human cargo ships fleeing with their families. "Let them run. We will catch them later." What emerged from hyperspace was not cargo ships. 3 massive vessels, each longer than 5 Valtharan cruisers placed end to end, dropped into normal space with their weapons already charged. Captain Sarah Kim stood on the bridge of the HNS Ragnarok, watching the alien fleet through her view screen. 47 crystal ships arranged in a standard formation. They had no idea what was about to happen to them. "All ships, this is Ragnarok Actual," Sarah spoke into her communicator. "Operation Dragon's Breath is a go. Time to show these aliens what happens when you murder human children." The HNS Fenrir, commanded by Captain Mike Davis, moved to attack position on the left flank. The HNS Bahamut under Captain John Roberts took the right. 3 dragon ships against nearly 50 alien vessels. The odds looked impossible. "Weapons. Target their command ship," Sarah ordered. "Jennifer, give them a taste of human engineering." Lieutenant Jennifer Wu smiled as she activated the Hellbore cannon. The weapon had been designed by scientists who studied black holes and quantum physics. It did not just shoot energy. It tore holes in the fabric of space itself. A beam of pure destruction lanced out from the Ragnarok. When it hit the Valtharan flagship, the massive crystal ship did not simply explode. It came apart molecule by molecule, unraveling like a sweater with a pulled thread. The death screams of its crew were broadcast across all radio frequencies as their bodies were torn apart at the atomic level. Admiral Zethkar barely had time to understand what was happening before his ship ceased to exist. The remaining Valtharan vessels tried to respond, but their weapons had been designed to intimidate rather than fight a real war. Their plasma beams struck the dragon ships and were absorbed by armor made from metals that had never existed in nature. Captain Mike Davis opened fire with the Fenrir's weapons array. Quantum torpedoes that bent spacetime struck the alien cruisers, causing them to collapse in on themselves like crushed tin cans. Where proud warships had been, only twisted metal and empty space remained. "This is Bahamut," reported Captain Roberts. "Engaging the alien rearguard, they are trying to retreat." "Negative," Sarah replied coldly. "No survivors. We want the rest of their empire to find these ships and wonder what could have done this to them." The battle lasted less than 10 minutes. When it was over, 47 Veltharan vessels had been reduced to expanding clouds of debris. Not a single alien had survived to report what they had seen, but the real message was yet to be delivered. The HNS Ragnarok approached the crippled wreckage of a Valtharan transport ship. Colonel Danny Murphy and his Reaper Corps prepared to board the vessel. Their enhanced bodies were protected by armor that let them survive in hard vacuum. "Remember, we need prisoners for intelligence," Danny told his squad over the radio. "But make sure they understand what they are dealing with." Sergeant Maria Lopez led the boarding party through the alien ship's corridors. The Valtharans inside were wounded and terrified. They had never faced an enemy that could match their technology, and the nanobots in the human soldiers' bloodstreams made them move like living nightmares. Maria found a group of alien officers hiding in their command center. The crystalline beings were tall and elegant, with skin that reflected light like precious stones. They looked at the human soldiers with the same expression a human might give to attacking wolves. "Surrender now and you will not be harmed," Maria said in the Valtharan language that Dr. Hayes had taught them. One of the aliens, wearing the marks of a high commander, spoke in broken English. "You are just animals. The Empire will crush your pathetic species for this attack." Maria grabbed the alien by his crystal throat and lifted him off the floor with one enhanced hand. "Animals? Your people murdered children while they tried to evacuate. You glassed entire planets full of families. Now you want to talk about being civilized?" The alien commander's eyes went wide as he felt Maria's superhuman strength. "What are you?" "We are what you created when you decided to genocide our species," Maria replied. "We used to be explorers and farmers and teachers. Now we are something much worse." Back on Earth, Dr. Kevin Chang interrogated the captured Valtharan commander in a secure facility. The alien, who called himself Sub-Admiral Rethaval, was clearly terrified by what he had experienced. "Your empire has ruled this part of the galaxy. For how long?" Kevin asked. 7,000 years, Rethaval replied through a translation device. "We have brought order to 200 systems. By exterminating every species that lived there, by removing inferior life forms that threatened galactic stability." Kevin leaned back in his chair. "I see. And in all that time, has any species ever fought back effectively?" Rethaval was quiet for a long moment. "No. Most surrender when they see our fleet. Those who resist are destroyed quickly." "That explains your tactical doctrine," Kevin said. "You have been fighting civilians and primitive worlds for so long that you have forgotten how to fight a real war." The alien commander looked confused. "What do you mean?" "Your ships are designed to intimidate and destroy helpless targets. Your weapons are built to cause fear. Your formations assume the enemy will break and run when they see your numbers." Kevin smiled coldly. "But humans do not break easily, and we have been preparing for a war like this for 50 years. Meanwhile, Captain Ryan Blake had survived the destruction of the Defender and been given command of a new ship, the HNS Hellhound. His mission was to take the war directly to Valtharan territory. The Hellhound dropped out of hyperspace above the alien mining world of Crysthera. Below them was a planet covered with crystal formations and alien cities. Millions of Valtharan civilians lived and worked on the surface. "Sir, we are receiving surrender transmissions from the planet," reported his communications officer. "They are offering to abandon the world if we spare their people." Ryan thought about the families on New Haven who had never been given that choice. "Negative. Charge the Hellbore cannon to full power." "Sir, there are civilians down there." "There were civilians on every human world they destroyed," Ryan replied. "They wanted to teach us about terror. Let us return the lesson. The Hellbore cannon fired, boring a hole through Crystera's crust and into its molten core. The planet's surface began to crack and melt as massive earthquakes tore through the alien cities. Where millions of Valtherans had lived, only lava and ash remained. The destruction of Crystera sent shockwaves through the Valtheran Empire. For the first time in their history, one of their worlds had been completely destroyed by an enemy. The recordings of the attack, transmitted by automated systems before the planet died, showed weapons that seemed impossible. Emperor Vaxthu called an emergency session of the High Council. The ancient Valtharan ruler had lived for 3,000 years and had never seen anything like the human ships. "How is this possible?" he demanded. "Our intelligence said the humans were a young species with primitive technology." "Our information was wrong, Emperor," admitted Intelligence Director Korath. "These new human vessels appear to be far more advanced than anything we have encountered. Then we will send a larger fleet to crush them." "I do not think you understand, my lord," Korath said carefully. "Our ships are not just being defeated. They are being completely destroyed. No survivors, no wreckage large enough to analyze. Whatever weapons the humans are using, they are designed to leave no trace of what they destroy." Back on Earth, President Martinez addressed the Galaxy Broadcasting Network. Behind her, recordings played of Valtheran cities being turned to ash. "For weeks we tried to contact the Valtheran Empire through diplomatic channels," she said. "We offered to negotiate to find a peaceful solution. They responded by murdering more of our people." The president looked directly into the camera. "The aliens wanted to see what humans become when our families are threatened. They wanted to teach us about fear and destruction. Well, they have succeeded. They have awakened something in us that we hoped would never be necessary." The recordings behind her showed dragon ships tearing apart alien fleets with weapons that seemed to bend the laws of physics. "This is our message to any species watching these broadcasts," Martinez continued. "Humans are no longer asking for a place among the stars. We are taking it. Any empire that threatens our people will discover why predators avoid waking sleeping. Dragons. In deep space, long-range sensors detected massive fleets moving through Valtharan territory. The Empire was mobilizing everything they had for a final assault on human space, but they still did not understand what they were truly facing. Dr. Ellen Hayes made a disturbing discovery while studying captured alien data. The Valtherans were not just conquerors, they were preparing for something called the Great Spawning, a reproductive cycle that happened once every 1,000 years. Dr. Kevin Chang walked into the secure briefing room deep beneath the Pentagon. Around the table sat the most important people in human government. President Helen Martinez looked tired. The past 3 weeks had brought nothing but bad news from war. "The colonies. Tell them about Dragonfire," the president said quietly. Kevin activated the holographic display. Images of massive ships appeared in the air above the table. The vessels were enormous, longer than city blocks and bristling with weapons that looked like they belonged in a nightmare. "Ladies and gentlemen, meet the Dragon Fleet," Kevin said. "For 50 years we have been building these ships in secret. They are hidden throughout our solar system waiting." General Tom Watson leaned forward. "How many ships are we talking about, Doctor?" 12 dreadnoughts fully operational. Each one is 15 kilometers long and carries enough firepower to crack a planet's crust. Senator Mary Collins shook her head. "Why were we not told about this program?" "Because we hoped we would never need them," Kevin replied. "These ships were designed for one purpose, to fight a war for the survival of our species." Admiral Lisa Parker studied the technical specifications on her tablet. "What kind of weapons do they carry?" Kevin's expression grew dark. "Weapons that violate several interstellar treaties we signed. Weapons that were banned for good reasons. The primary armament is called a Hellbore cannon. It does not just destroy targets. It unmakes them at the molecular level." President Martinez spoke up. "The aliens who attacked our colonies do not seem concerned with treaties or civilian lives. I think our moral obligations have changed." Meanwhile, in the asteroid belt, Captain Sarah Kim stood on the bridge of the HNS Ragnarok. The massive ship had been her home for the past 5 years, hidden inside a hollowed-out asteroid. Now, for the first time, She could see stars through the main view screen instead of rock walls. "All systems are green, Captain," reported Commander Bill Rodriguez. "The crew is ready for deployment." Sarah nodded. Her crew of 800 had been hand-picked for their psychological profiles. Every person on this ship had volunteered to do whatever was necessary to protect humanity. They all knew they might have to make choices that would haunt them forever. "Weapons status, Jennifer?" Sarah asked. Lieutenant Jennifer Wu checked her. "Displays. Hellbore cannon is charged and ready. Quantum torpedoes are loaded. Point defense systems are online." Sarah looked out at the stars and thought about the reports from the colonies. Entire worlds burned to glass. Families murdered while trying to evacuate. Children shot down in their escape pods. The aliens had shown no mercy, so they would receive none. On Earth, Colonel Danny Murphy led his squad through the final stages of their enhancement process. The Reaper Corps was humanity's answer to alien super soldiers. Experimental nanobots in their bloodstream made them faster and stronger than any normal human. "How do you feel, Sergeant Lopez?" Danny asked Maria as she stepped out of the enhancement chamber. Maria flexed her hands, feeling the nanobots integrating with her nervous system. "Like I could punch through a steel wall, sir." "You probably can now," said Corporal Alex Turner with a grin. The testing showed a 6-fold increase in physical strength. Danny watched his soldiers adapt to their new capabilities. They were no longer quite human, but they were humanity's best hope for ground combat against an enemy that saw them as insects to be crushed. Dr. Ellen Hayes worked frantically in her laboratory, studying pieces of Valtheran technology recovered from the battle at New Haven. Her team of researchers, including Carl Johnson and Nancy Brown, had been working around the clock to understand the alien weapons. "Their energy weapons use a crystalline focusing system," Ellen explained to her team. "It is incredibly efficient, but it has a weakness. The crystals can be overloaded if hit with the right frequency of electromagnetic pulse." Carl looked up from his microscope. "So we can disable their weapons?" "More than that," Ellen said with a cold smile. "We can make them explode." Throughout the solar system, secret shipyards worked at maximum speed. Admiral Chris Walker coordinated the construction efforts from his command center on Pluto. Asteroid miners like Joe Miller had converted their industrial equipment to build weapons and armor for the Dragon fleet. "How many ships will be ready for the first offensive?" Admiral Walker asked his staff. "3 Dragons are fully operational," reported Captain Lisa Stone. "The Ragnarok, Fenrir, and Bahamut. The others will be ready within 2 months. That will have to be enough for now. The aliens are moving toward the core worlds. We cannot wait any longer." The Valtheran Empire continued its systematic destruction of human colonies. Admiral Zethkar commanded the Imperial fleet from his flagship, the Crystal Throne. To him, the removal of human settlements was a simple matter of pest control. "The mammals are beginning to flee toward their home system," reported his tactical officer. "Should we pursue them?" "Let them run," Zethkar replied. "When they are all gathered in one place, we will finish them completely. The Council wants no surviving humans to spread their infection to other parts of the galaxy." What Zethkar did not know was that every fleeing human ship carried more than just refugees. Hidden in their cargo holds were critical components for the Dragon fleet. Rare metals from mining colonies, advanced processors from research stations, and quantum cores from deep space observatories. Captain Mike Davis prepared his ship, the Annis Fenrir, for its maiden voyage to Pluto Station. His crew was nervous but determined. They had all lost friends or family in the alien attacks. "Engineering, what is our status?" Mike asked over the intercom. "All systems are operational, Captain," replied Chief Engineer Tom Bradley. "The Hellbore cannon has been tested and is ready for combat." Navigator Kate Murphy plotted their course through the outer solar system. "We will reach Pluto in 18 hours, sir. The route keeps us away from all shipping lanes." "Good. The fewer people who see us, the better." As the Fenrir moved through space, its crew prepared for humanity's first real strike back against the Valtheran Empire. They carried with them the hopes and rage of every human who had watched alien ships burn their worlds. Back on Earth, President Martinez addressed the Global Defense Council. Representatives from every nation sat in the emergency session, their faces grim with the weight of what was coming. "The aliens gave us a choice," she said. "Retreat to Earth and abandon the stars or face extinction." But they forgot something important about humans. When someone tries to destroy everything we love, we do not run. We fight. The Council voted unanimously to authorize Operation Dragonfire. For the first time in human history, their species would wage a war of total destruction against an alien enemy. They would use weapons designed to kill not just soldiers, but entire civilizations. In space, the Dragon Fleet gathered at Pluto Station, 12 massive ships that represented 50 years of secret preparation. Each one carried enough firepower to sterilize a planet and crews willing to use it. Captain Sarah Kim received her sealed orders from Admiral Walker. The first target was the Kepler Station system, where Veltheran forces were preparing to attack the New Texas colony. 3 Dragon ships would hit them before they could murder another 50,000 humans. "All hands, this is the captain," Sarah announced over the ship's intercom. "We are going to war, not to conquer territory or resources, but to show an enemy that humanity will not go quietly into extinction. When we are done, the aliens will know they made a terrible mistake when they decided to genocide our people." The HNS Ragnarok, along with the Fenrir and Bahamut, entered hyperspace and headed for their first battle. Behind them, Earth continued building more dragon ships and training more Reaper soldiers. The sleeping giants of humanity had awakened, and they were very, very angry. Dr. Ellen Hayes stared at the data on her computer screen, her face pale with shock. The Veltheran biological samples told a story that changed everything about the war. She picked up her secure phone and called the Pentagon emergency line. "This is Dr. Hayes. I need to speak with General Watson immediately. It is about the alien reproduction cycle." 20 minutes later, Ellen stood before the Joint Chiefs of Staff in the secure briefing room. The holographic display showed complex biological diagrams that would determine the fate of both species. "The Veltherans do not reproduce like humans," she began. "They create offspring through crystalline matrices that grow for 1,000 years. When the crystals are ready, they release millions of new Veltherans all at once." Admiral Parker leaned forward. "How many offspring are we talking about?" "Each spawning world can produce approximately 10 million new individuals. Our intelligence suggests they have been preparing 50 worlds for this cycle." Ellen paused. "That means 500 million new Veltherans in 6 months. The room fell silent. General Watson was the first to speak. "Can we stop the spawning process?" "Only by destroying the crystal matrices before they mature. But that would require us to attack their core worlds, planets they have been defending for thousands of years." President Martinez joined the meeting via secure video link. "Doctor, what happens if we fail to stop this spawning?" Ellen looked directly at the camera. "Then humanity becomes extinct. The new generation will have numbers we cannot match, even with the Dragon Fleet." Captain Sarah Kim received her new orders aboard the HNS Ragnarok. Operation Prometheus would take the entire Dragon Fleet deep into Veltharan space. A journey of 3 months through enemy territory to reach their homeworld of SciFiPrime. "All department heads to the briefing room," Sarah announced over the ship's intercom. Her senior staff gathered around the tactical display showing their route through alien space. "This is a one-way mission," she told them bluntly. "We are taking 12 ships against the entire Veltharan Empire. Earth cannot send reinforcements or supplies. We either succeed completely, or humanity dies." Commander Rodriguez studied the navigation charts. "We will be passing through heavily defended systems. The aliens will know we are coming." "That is why we are not going around their defenses," Sarah replied. "We are going through them. Every system we pass through will be left in ruins. We want the Emperor to know exactly what is heading for his world." Meanwhile, General Watson oversaw the transformation of Earth into a fortress. Every major city sprouted defensive installations that could target ships in orbit. Admiral Parker coordinated the placement of hidden weapons platforms throughout the solar system. "If the Dragon Fleet fails, the Veltherans will come here for their final assault," Watson explained to his staff. "We need to make sure Earth becomes their graveyard." Susan Taylor had been a factory worker before the war. Now she operated a massive plasma cannon on Luna Base, one of hundreds of defensive positions built around Earth's moon. She and her crew practiced targeting drills every day, preparing for the battle that would decide everything. "Do you think the Dragon Fleet will succeed?" asked her loader, Robert Green, a former teacher who had volunteered for military service. "They have to," Susan replied, checking her weapons targeting system. "Because if they do not, we are all dead." The Dragon Fleet began its journey through Veltharan space like a spear thrust into the heart of the Empire. The first system they encountered was Corval, a military stronghold with orbital defense platforms and patrol fleets. Captain Mike Davis commanded the HNS Fenrir as it led the assault. The Veltharan defenders opened fire with everything they had, but their weapons were designed for the old kind of warfare. Plasma beams and missile volleys struck the dragon ships and were absorbed or deflected by armor that had been built to survive inside black holes. "Target their orbital stations," Mike ordered. "Leave nothing that can threaten civilian shipping." Navigator Kate Murphy plotted firing solutions while engineer Paul Adams monitored the ship's power systems. The Fenrir's Hellbore cannon spoke once, twice, 3 times. Each shot erased a defensive platform from existence, leaving only empty space where fortifications had stood for centuries. The Dragon Fleet moved through Corval's system like a hurricane through a garden. When they left, nothing remained but debris and the electromagnetic echoes of destroyed technology. Colonel Danny Murphy and his Reaper Corps infiltrated SciFiPrime weeks before the main fleet arrived. Their enhanced bodies allowed them to survive the journey in stealth pods that were nearly impossible to detect. Sergeant Maria Lopez led her squad through the underground tunnels beneath the Veltharan capital. Their target was the primary spawning facility, a massive complex where millions of crystal matrices were growing toward maturity. "The facility is guarded by the Empire's best soldiers," Danny had told them during the mission briefing. "But they have never faced enhanced humans before. Remember, we are not just fighting for our own lives. We are fighting for every human child who will never be born if we fail." The spawning chambers were like crystal cathedrals, filled with formations that hummed with alien life. Each matrix contained dozens of developing Veltharans, their crystalline bodies slowly taking shape inside protective shells. Maria looked at the vast hall filled with the future of the enemy species. "How many are we looking at, sir?" "Intelligence estimates 12 million in this facility alone," Danny replied. "There are 50 more like this one across their homeworld." Meanwhile, Captain Ryan Blake led a diversionary attack on the Veltharan military stronghold of Korthax. His mission was to draw as many enemy ships as possible away from SciFiPrime, giving the Dragon Fleet a clear path to the planet. The HNS Hellhound and 5 other ships faced off against 300 Veltharan vessels. It was hopeless, but Ryan had volunteered for the assignment. His tactical genius and the superior technology of human ships let him destroy dozens of enemy vessels before the aliens overwhelmed him. "This is Blake to Dragon Fleet," he transmitted, as his ship took critical damage. "The way is clear. Make them pay for what they did to our people." The Hellhound exploded in a flash of light that was visible from 3 star systems away. But Ryan's sacrifice had worked. Most of the Veltharan fleet was out of position when the Dragon Fleet arrived at their homeworld. Emperor Vyexthu watched the human ships approach from his palace on SciFiPrime. The alien ruler was ancient even by his species' standards, and he had never imagined seeing enemy vessels in orbit above his homeworld. "Open a communication channel," he ordered his staff. "Perhaps we can negotiate with these creatures." The transmission reached Captain Sarah Kim aboard the Ragnarok. The Emperor's voice was translated by the ship's computers, carrying tones of desperation that had never been heard from a Veltharan leader. "Human Commander, I am Emperor Vyexthu of the Eternal Empire. I offer you terms for peace. We will share this galaxy with your species. We will retreat to the Outer Rim and leave the core worlds to you. We will even submit to human authority, if necessary." Sarah looked at the planet below, knowing that its surface contained the future generations of the species that had murdered human children. "Emperor, this is Captain Kim of the Human Navy. You had your chance for peace when you could have spared our families. You chose genocide instead." But surely you can see that continued warfare serves no one, the Emperor pleaded. Both our species could benefit from cooperation rather than destruction. Dr. Chang's voice came over the communication channel from Earth. He had been monitoring the exchange and wanted to deliver humanity's final message to their enemy. Emperor, you are correct that warfare serves no one. That is why humans tried repeatedly to contact your empire through diplomatic channels. We offered trade, cultural exchange, and peaceful coexistence. Your response was to murder our children and burn our worlds. The transmission included archived footage of the attacks on human colonies, families being shot while trying to evacuate, schools being bombed, hospitals being destroyed while treating wounded civilians. This is what your empire calls diplomacy. Dr. Chang continued. So we learned to speak your language. And now we are going to teach you a lesson that will echo across the galaxy for the next 1,000 years. The Dragon Fleet took position around SciFiPrime, while Colonel Murphy's teams moved into the spawning facilities below. Sarah Kim looked at her tactical display and saw the future of two species balanced on the edge of her weapons. All ships. This is Ragnarok Actual, she announced. Operation Prometheus is now active. Target the spawning facilities and prepare to fire on my command. Emperor Vaexthu's final transmission carried the sound of an ancient being who finally understood the magnitude of his species' mistake. What have we done? You struck at human colonies, Sarah replied. Now the dragons have risen. The first Hellbore cannon shots lit up the night sky of SciFiPrime like falling stars of destruction. But this was only the beginning. The real battle for the survival of both species was about to begin. The Battle of SciFiPrime began with fire falling from the sky. Captain Sarah Kim watched from the bridge of the HNS Ragnarok as 12 dragon ships unleashed weapons that had been designed in humanity's darkest laboratories. The orbital defense platforms around the Valtheran homeworld were swept away like leaves in a hurricane. Hellbore cannons at maximum power, reported Lieutenant Jennifer Wu, targeting the primary spawning complex. The beam that lanced down from the Ragnarok did not simply destroy the crystal cathedral below. It carved through the planet's crust like a sword through flesh, exposing the molten rock beneath. Where millions of developing Valtherans had been growing toward maturity, only a glowing crater remained. Colonel Danny Murphy led his Reaper Corps through the underground spawning facilities, while the bombardment raged overhead. The enhanced soldiers moved through corridors filled with crystal formations, each one containing dozens of alien embryos. How many complexes are left? Danny asked over his radio as his squad destroyed another chamber full of spawning matrices. Sergeant Maria Lopez checked her tactical display. 47 facilities still active, sir, but the orbital bombardment is hitting them faster than we can reach them on foot. The nanobots in Maria's bloodstream let her survive in the toxic atmosphere created by the ship-to-surface weapons. She watched crystal formations that had grown for 1,000 years crumble into dust in seconds. Sir, I am reading massive seismic activity, reported Corporal Alex Turner. The planet's crust is becoming unstable. Above them, Captain Mike Davis commanded the HNS Bahamut in a precision strike against SciFiPrime's geological weak points. The experimental quantum torpedoes his ship carried could destabilize matter at the subatomic level. Fire all torpedoes, Mike ordered. Target the convergence points that Dr. Hayes identified. Navigator Kate Murphy had calculated the exact locations where the planet's tectonic plates met. Engineer Paul Adams monitored the weapon systems as they prepared to crack a world open like an egg. The quantum torpedoes struck deep beneath the planet's surface, their exotic matter warheads creating cascading failures in the rock structure. SciFiPrime began to tear itself apart from within. Emperor Vaexthu felt his ancient palace shake as earthquakes rippled across the planet's surface. Through his crystal windows, he could see human ships moving through space like predators, systematically destroying everything his species had built over thousands of years. My lord, we must evacuate, urged his advisor. The humans are targeting the planet's core. There is nowhere to run, the Emperor replied quietly. They have come to end us completely. A new voice crackled over the communication channels, Dr. Kevin Chang speaking from Earth. Emperor, You wanted to teach humanity about terror and extinction. Congratulations. You have succeeded beyond your wildest imagination. The transmission showed footage from human colonies that the Vaeltherons had destroyed. Families being murdered while trying to evacuate. Children shot down in escape. Pausing, entire worlds turned to glass. This is what your empire called necessary, Dr. Chung continued. The removal of inferior life forms that threatened galactic stability. Well, we learned from your example, and now we are applying those same principles to you. Back in the solar system, the Vaeltheran reinforcement fleet finally arrived to find Earth transformed into a weapon, pointed at the stars. Admiral Lisa Parker watched from her command station as 300 alien ships dropped out of hyperspace near Jupiter. All defensive platforms, prepare to engage, she ordered. Show them what happens when they threaten the human homeworld. Susan Taylor gripped the controls of her plasma cannon on Luna Base as the alien fleet approached. Beside her, Robert Green loaded another power cell into the weapon's energy matrix. Remember, these are the ones who burned our colonies, Susan said, as she locked onto her target. No mercy, no prisoners. The hidden weapons platforms throughout the asteroid belt revealed themselves as the Vaeltheran fleet moved toward Earth. What the aliens had thought was empty space erupted with defensive installations that had been building for months. Factory. Worker Joe Miller commanded one of the converted asteroid bases. His crew had turned mining equipment into ship-killing weapons that tore through crystalline hulls like they were made of paper. Target their command vessels first, Joe ordered his gunners. Cut off the head and the body dies. The battle for Earth lasted only 3 hours. When it was over, not a single Vaeltheran ship remained operational. The debris from their fleet formed a new ring around Earth, a memorial to the price of threatening humanity's children. On SciFiPrime, Colonel Murphy reached the primary spawning chamber just as the planet began its final death throes. The HFY cathedral-sized crystal formation contained the embryonic forms of the next generation of Vaeltheran leaders, including the future Emperor himself. Sir, the orbital bombardment has stopped, reported Sergeant Lopez. Captain Kim is waiting for our signal. Danny looked at the millions of developing aliens surrounding him. Each one would grow up to conquer worlds and exterminate species if they were allowed to mature. But they were also children who had never chosen to be part of their empire's genocidal campaign. They never gave our children a choice, Danny said, finally. Execute the mission. The Reaper Corps planted their experimental charges throughout the spawning chamber. When the devices detonated, they would create a chain reaction that would sterilize every remaining spawning facility on the planet. Maria. Lopez activated the timer and turned to her commanding officer. 30 seconds to detonation, sir. We need to reach minimum safe distance. Negative, Sergeant. These charges need to be protected until they explode. If even one spawning facility survives, this war starts all over again in 1,000 years. The enhanced soldiers took defensive positions around the chamber as Vaeltheran security forces tried desperately to reach them. The aliens fought with the fury of parents trying to protect their children, but the human soldiers had been designed for exactly this kind of battle. The charges detonated in a cascade of exotic energy that spread through the planet's crust like fire through dry grass. Every spawning matrix on SciFiPrime was destroyed in seconds, taking with it the entire future of the Vaeltheran species. Colonel Murphy and his squad died in the explosion, but their sacrifice ensured that humanity would never again face extinction at alien hands. Captain Sarah Kim felt the planet shudder beneath her ship as the spawning facilities were destroyed. Seismic monitors showed SciFiPrime's crust cracking along massive fault lines. All ships prepare for planetary destruction, she announced. The core is going critical. Emperor Vaexthu stood in his collapsing palace as the world ended around him. His final transmission was broadcast across the galaxy on all frequencies, a warning that would echo through space for generations. We offered them peace, trade, coexistence, the ancient ruler said, as crystal spires toppled around him. They chose extermination. Now they know when you strike at human colonies, you do not just wake sleeping giants. You wake dragons, and dragons burn everything. SciFiPrime tore itself apart in an explosion that was visible from neighboring star systems. The homeworld of the Vaeltheran Empire, seat of power for 7,000 years, became nothing more than an expanding cloud of superheated gas and broken dreams. 6 months later, President Martinez stood in the rebuilt town center of New Haven Colony. Human families had returned to the world that had been burned to glass, and crops were growing again in soil fertilized by the ashes of their previous lives. Admiral Sarah Kim, promoted after the successful completion of Operation Prometheus, oversaw the integration of surviving Veltharan refugees into human society. The aliens who had surrendered were treated with the mercy their empire had never shown, but they lived under human authority now. How many of their species survived? Martinez asked as they watched human and alien children playing together in the rebuilt school. Approximately 50 million across their former territory, Sarah replied. They have accepted human protection in exchange for sharing their technology and knowledge. The president nodded. And the other alien empires? They received our message loud and clear. Complete footage of SciFiPrime's destruction, along with technical specifications of our weapons. Most are requesting formal diplomatic contact rather than risking the same fate. Dr. Ellen Hayes had established the Galactic Research Institute on Mars, where human and alien scientists worked together to explore the mysteries of the universe. Her team studied the remains of the Veltharan spawning matrices, ensuring that humanity would understand any similar threats in the future. The galaxy is a different place now, she reported to the Global Council. Species that had been conquered by the Veltharans are declaring independence. Others are requesting human protection. We have become the dominant power in this region of space. General Watson toured the Dragonfleet shipyards that had been built openly throughout the solar system. The massive vessels were no longer hidden weapons of last resort. They were symbols of humanity's newfound position among the stars. How many Dragon ships are operational now? He asked Admiral Parker. 36, with 12 more under construction. Each one carries enough firepower to sterilize a solar system.